Hey, everybody, welcome back to another episode of the Strategy Game Podcast. I'm your host, Lauren Shippey, and today we are going to be talking about what it looks like to see, know, and hear public figures. So we have so many different types of public figures around us, right? And each one of us has different sources for gathering information and forming opinions that ultimately shape our perspectives. And this is a tricky one because I think a lot of this these opinions can seep in through different channels that we're not even aware of. So I think as you listen into this episode, really pay attention to what might be happening in your subconscious mind, because what we ultimately strive to do at Storywork through leadership in life and in business is encourage others around us to see what's going on in the subconscious mind and bring it to the conscious, because anything that is in the subconscious mind can become trapped. It can impact us whether we know it or not. And then ultimately that has a hold on us that can hold us back from operating in our purpose. And so that's really why we are doing this work. And that's why I wrote the book and, all the things that we do. So when we look at public figures, I want you to think about who influences your circle. They contribute to your thoughts and opinions daily. So let's think about, podcasts that you listen to, TV shows that you watch, even commercials that you see on a regular basis, news sources on your phone, that come through your email. So email lists that you're subscribed to, text messages that you get. And I mean, I don't mean individual text messages. I mean, like from public figures, if you're subscribed to anybody's texts, all the different sources that come in. Basically, what can happen sometimes is that we can create our own echo chambers in search of feeling validation or safety or confirmation, like, oh, I was right. So we want to confirm our own beliefs, essentially. And so what we can do is subscribe to things that are alike with our values and align with our beliefs. But what's difficult about that is that there's always another side, and there are all types of different perspectives that we may not be aware of. And so seeing and knowing and hearing those that are shaping our own world and understanding that impact that the voices that we're listening to have on us can just help us identify and evaluate any influences that might be hindering us from healthy growth. So there's just a lot, like we talked about, that happens in our minds on a daily basis. And so I would encourage you, just while I'm even talking here, to take an inventory of your current public figures that you listen to, hear, see on a daily basis. And as you think through them, you might find that there's a certain feeling associated with some of them. And I'll give you some examples here in a minute, but it might be your first gut reaction. And I would encourage you to go with that gut reaction. And if there are some that make you cringe a bit and you're like, you know what, I know that this voice might not be great for me on a regular basis. Maybe it's where you are with dealing with some kind of past issue. Maybe it triggers something, that comes up from a previous relationship. Maybe it is making you question or doubt yourself in an unhealthy way. Maybe it's a critical sounding voice, whatever it is, whether it's even the tone of voice that you're taking in, or it's what that person is saying. I would encourage you to cut it out if you need to. Go with your gut, eliminate it, say, hey, I'm going to take a break from this for a week, 2 weeks, and see what happens. Like, you get to test this. This is a trial and error space, right? And notice what happens. And if you really want to get granular about this, you can actually make a list of the voices in your life of people that are influencing you and impacting you on a daily basis, and notice what happens with them. So I would just encourage you to spend some time doing that. And I was having a parenting moment with my girls a couple years ago, and they were like sisters do, saying things to each other that they knew would make each other mad. And I was trying to figure out something that would stick in their minds to help them evaluate their words before it came out of their mouths, right? And so this phrase popped into my mind, and it's become one of our family rules. We have a couple family rules, and one of them is that helpful or hurtful? And that was it. That stuck in my mind. We have the choice to help or hurt others and ourselves with our words. And so it was such a light bulb moment for us as a family. And now we use it to, encourage each other. But what I would tell you is, just as you evaluate like celebrities, government officials, news sources, gurus, influencers, even on the local level, that you take in on your daily news feed of life, are they helpful or hurtful? So, and as always, go with your first instinct, don't waver. And some of the answers might surprise you. So taking this regular inventory of the inputs really is game changing. And we talk a lot about at Storywork becoming a game changer, not just an outperformer. Think of an outperformer as like running on the hamster wheel as fast as you can, striving to hit the next level, perfection, whatever that looks like in your mind. Or sometimes it's this invisible hamster. We don't even know what the goal is, but we're running on this crazy hamster wheel. And so at Storywork, our goal is to help you get off of that hamster wheel and just be intentional about the things that you're going to do and your time, so that you can just become a game changer. So you might do less, but it has more impact than running on a hamster wheel trying to be an outperformer. So this is one of the tools that you can use to do that. So when I'm going to give you some examples. So when we think about celebrities, think about the Kardashians versus Chip and Joanna Gaines. So when you think about these examples, different words probably come to mind if you think about each one of them, right? So very different personalities, very different voices, very different vibe, tone of voice, how they talk to each other. Everything is different. The feeling you get when you watch them, different, right? So this is what I mean by evaluating those voices and knowing what is helpful to you and what is hurtful to you. So even musicians, entertainers, social media personalities, music that you listen to, just everything that you're taking in, how do they impact your thoughts, actions, words, and mood? And you don't have to like get overwhelmed with this. Just, you'll know right away. You'll be like, oh, you know what? I'm going to cut that out. I want to cut that out. You don't have to make it overly complicated. Government officials. So this is one for sure, right? In the book, we talk about how, we're seeing the largest, this is no secret, polarization that we've ever seen for the last time, in over 50 years. So we're, at a really divisive state, and really that makes seeing and hearing and knowing each other all the more important. So, we've all experienced that division with each other, right? And whether it be personal relationships, our neighborhoods, schools, communities, churches, government leaders, like we see it. We see it. And I think a lot of us just don't even know where to start or what to do about it. And I was recording a podcast. If you haven't listened to this one yet, I would highly recommend going back and listening to it. It's with Christy Vines from IDEOS. She's an incredible leader, and she's operating in a space that attempts to be the bridge with the political climate and leaders and people in general. And so she really made a point. I was asking her about what our government leaders could do to better see, know, and hear each other. And her answer really surprised me, because she brought it back to us as individuals and taking ownership over ourselves and the power that we would have collectively to influence our culture. And she said that she really believes it's a grassroots movement that starts with us. So our leaders are a reflection of us and where we are as a culture. And if we change, then eventually our leadership must change. Now, of course, this is the long game, but if we don't have much other option at this point, right? we've got to look at ourselves. That's one thing we can do if we feel powerless in all the other arenas influencing the political landscape. So this was really challenging, like thinking about, hey, I can take ownership of myself and the way that I interact with others in order to take steps toward healing our political landscape. So, I think this just looks like really looking at what you're letting come in politically to influence you. Are you getting stuck or pigeonholed or creating an echo chamber that's just telling you the same things? And how is that impacting your mindset when you come across people who have different mindsets, right? Is it setting you up for success, or is it setting you up to be angry and critical and resentful? And hey, I get it. This is really hard. But it's really something to think about in terms of just the greater good and the culture that we're creating. And the news media, pretty much the same, right? So that's a space, and also social media. So just even looking at that, this is roughly a third of US adults, 31%, say they regularly get their news from Facebook. So digital news, especially social media, right, is playing a crucial role in news consumption and the information that we're taking in, like a lot of health, right, parenting advice, all the things. And this is really, it can be really good because, if you have short pockets of time, if you're just checking in between work, or you're, a mom and you got your kids running around screaming and you have like no time to read or see anything that's going on, this can be an advantage, but it can also be a disadvantage. And the difficulty can be that this can really, we don't know for sure the sources of information, right? We're scrolling through very quickly. We're getting sound bites or snippets of information that in our minds, if we're not careful, can just create certain thoughts that we're having, or perspectives or opinions that aren't necessarily deeply informed. And so I think that it's good to evaluate, especially if we're going to be like resharing something. We just might want to pause and just really evaluate, like, hey, do I believe that? Do I not? Like, and take it lightly, honestly, because we can't understand the full story, the full perspective, and pay attention to like your thoughts. If you were to see them across a board with arrows in between them, like see social media feed, arrow, confirming of this thought that I already had about politics, parenting, health, arrow, don't take this vitamin anymore, arrow, tell a friend that they need to do the same thing, arrow, supports my opinion against all medication. You know what I'm saying? Like, you get the point. So it's just follow the train of thought to just check yourself for any kind of like, assumptions that might be allowed to be created under the radar, because we want to take an inventory of that. And then, obviously we've got local forces and influencers. So business owners and thought leaders and local government officials, even neighbors, right? So what does that look like, and how are they shaping our thoughts and opinions for the good and not for the good? It's just really taking an inventory of yourself. And I think that really helps, just catching the thoughts. If you can picture yourself with a net, grabbing that thought pattern as it goes on this wild journey throughout our minds, right? Like this wild road, I'm pulling it into this, right, framework of like asking yourself, why do I think that? What am I taking in? You now have a place to process your thoughts. Like, you can move that subconscious thought to the conscious mind, and that can just lift, even if like there's some guilt, false guilt or shame, or like anything hiding, like that you might be carrying around, it has to go, once you uncover the thoughts that are causing it. So this can be like a deeper journey, but I just wanted to share the surface level. In the book, I go on more about the specific tool you can use and how you can really actually create a strategy for yourself around evaluating these voices. and I'm sharing the chapters one at a time here so that 1 week at a time. This is actually it's not the final draft. It's been through a couple rounds of edits, but I really wanted to share it with you so that I could give a place for you guys to just get this content so that it can get out there, and even get any of your feedback. So if you want that, I know that'll be in the show notes here, and I'll be sharing them every week. So thanks so much for listening in. Hope you found this episode helpful. As always, give us a review on the podcast if you did. And for more, head to www.storywork.co.